everyone. We're here at NOSH Live Summer 2019, and we are hanging out in the live stream studio with Kelly Criswell.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Hi, Kelly. So you're the Chief Creative Officer of the GRO agency, and lately you've been working on Kabaki. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with them.
Yeah, Kabaki's a fun brand that we met in their infancy before they had branding, and we helped them develop their branding, brand name, brand strategy, packaging design, and we went a little further with them. We've helped them with their go-to-market strategy and really down into the nitty-gritty, even with formulation. So really fun people to partner with.
That's really cool. And you work with everyone from startups to larger brands, or how big do these brands go that you work with?
We've been working with Nestle for 30 years, so pretty darn big.
Yeah.
But we also really love to partner with entrepreneurs and startups, especially in the natural segment. There's just so much innovation going on. It's really fun for us.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the bigger brands, though, Nestle, I know you've worked with Dunkin' Donuts as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the strategies you use with those larger brands that can also apply to smaller brands?
I mean, there's really crossover both ways, right? So in terms of the larger brands, obviously they have a lot of senior marketing staff who has a lot of great experience, and they have a lot of resources, and so there's a lot of tools that we use for them that then cross over well to giving advice to the entrepreneurs, and vice versa, because the small brands we work with are flexible and nimble and have great ideas and are innovating really quickly, and so a lot of the learnings that way apply both ways. It's really kind of a brilliant way to work with both.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So I know at boot camp yesterday you mentioned some strategies for displaying different components of your brand story on packaging. Yeah. One of the ones you mentioned was using the side of the package if needed. Can you talk a little bit about other strategies that a new brand might think about when they're considering their brand story?
Yeah, and I think this is always important for every brand, is to pick out what your big differentiator is, what your nugget is. It's not always a claim, and sometimes it is. Halo Top has done really well marketing on one claim, right? Even though they have lots of other claims they could market on. Sometimes it's an aspect of the story, sometimes it's part of the founder's story, but you have to use right brain and left brain and some intuition to kind of figure out what that really connective nugget is for your brand and how you're going to connect with the consumer with that nugget.
Mm-hmm. And what's a good tip for a brand who's maybe thinking e-commerce first? How might they want to think a little bit differently?
Really, really focus, again, on that nugget that's going to connect with the consumer, and focus on it so that your package, one of the trends right now is minimalism, right? So everybody's doing a minimal package, and that's great for e-com, but also you don't want to do that just for the sake of having a clean package. You want to have something so outstanding on your package that it's clear on Instagram. People are scrolling really fast, so you need something really strong. You need to tell your little nugget, your little insight really, really strong on your package, especially for e-com, but even on retail shelves as well.
Yeah. What do some of those conversations look like when you're trying to help a brand figure out what their nugget even is? I feel like that could be a very long process.
It's a whole process because, brands are people's babies, and they're very connected with them, and they're connected with every aspect of them too, right? So a lot of these people have amazing products that do a lot of different things, and it's very difficult to decide what's my thing that's really going to resonate the most with my target consumer, and then be okay with maybe putting the rest on the back panel, like you mentioned before. I mean, the back panel is a great place for storytelling and for all of your claims and all of your stuff, but the front of your package has to say a thing, and so it becomes a great, healthy conversation, right, to decide. And we have a whole process for that, obviously.
So, yeah, it's really interesting. Are there any packaging design trends you've seen in the last couple of years you'd say maybe stay away from, just in terms of how the package actually functions for the consumer?
Yeah, there's a lot of different trends happening right now, and I think some are good and some are bad, but it really comes back to what resonates for your brand. Who are you talking to? Who's the target? What's their language? What would they understand? And what would they connect with best? So, trends are great. And I mentioned minimalism before. That's a trend that's happening. Bold colors, bold typography, bold messaging. And that's all really connective depending on what you're saying. So, utilizing a design trend like patterning in the background or super clean minimalism or, line illustration. Those are some great trends. But utilizing, a cutesy line illustration, if that's not going to resonate with your audience who might be older or whatever, you have to really make sure that whatever trends you're leveraging are connective and make sense for your brand.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Do you feel like it's a good thing to have the product be actually visible through the packaging?
It depends on the product.
Yeah.
Some product is not pretty, and some product is so different and unique and innovative that you have to show the consumer what they're going to be getting. Sometimes you're using photography to do that if it's done the right way. Some people use illustration to do that. Some people use a window. All of those things really can be utilized well depending on what your product actually looks like and how different it is. If people know what beef jerky looks like, for example, you don't always need a window on the front. Sometimes that's on the back or whatever, but people don't know what yesterday I had a quinoa coffee ball. I had no idea what that was going to look like. And so, sometimes you want to really show the consumer what this thing is. Mm-hmm. And it was delicious.
Sounds delightful.
It was.
So in terms of when you're thinking about Instagram, for example, are brands thinking more about the stories on Instagram, or are they thinking about the grid? Are they freaking out about Instagram in general?
I think people are getting really savvy, honestly. I don't think people are freaking out about it as much as they were a couple years ago. And both. Really, the answer is both. People are worrying about the grid and the stories because you've got to constantly be talking to your audience, right? Mm-hmm. So the stories are a great place for that, and the grid is a great place to have a lasting impression, especially for these new brands looking for investment. Have a beautiful Instagram feed.
Mm-hmm. What about the other social channels? How much should they prioritize those?
Depends on your audience, right?
Yeah.
So a younger audience is more on Instagram, but definitely Facebook is still a really great place to be and a really great place to have conversations. So I think all of this really depends on who you're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any trends that you're seeing that you really like? Anything that you feel like should be in our general awareness?
I've mentioned this already so many times, but I do really like the minimalism trend, and I think I like it so much because it helps. It kind of helps you focus on decluttering the messaging, because there's nothing that loses a consumer more than a package that's super cluttered. You have to read through all the claims. You have to figure out what the thing is. I like a really quick read. I like to understand what the product is immediately and how it's going to benefit me immediately. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a trend that is going to continue for a while. But again, doing that for the sake of being minimalist is not super connective, or you really have to focus your messaging and your communication as much as you do your packaging. So.
Yeah, definitely. What do the conversations look like around labeling, like non-GMO or natural sugars? How do you decide what to prioritize? There's so many things you could have.
There are, and a lot of these guys can say all sorts of things, and it really does come down to what do we think is going to resonate the most? What do we think is going to drive purchase decisions on shelf or online? And so, a lot of the time we utilize the back panel for all the stuff, right? Because you got to have a place to say all the things. But if a brand is paleo and keto and sugar-free and carb-free and this and that, we try to say, okay, what's the one? And if it's and it depends on the product. If it's a baked good and it's keto, great, say that. There's not a lot of keto baked goods out there that are any good, right? Whereas there's plenty of sugar-free. So it's really kind of assessing the market, seeing what else is out there, seeing if there's a need you can fill, and choose the claim that's really filling a need, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
Sounds like hard work.
It's fun work. I don't know. Hard, fun. Anything that's hard is fun, right? I don't know.
I think so. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank
It was
you
so
so
interesting
much.
talking to you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.